almost forgot to tell you the craziest thing. We're all from the same area, you know Creed too. Before he moved to New York, he grew up in the same region as you. His town was right next to yours. Look, here's a copy of his old I'm not kidding. I can even prove it. And then Mark switched to fluent perfect Spanish. Mark's Spanish rolled off his tongue like a native. Sharp, fluid, and impossible to dismiss. Creed's Bella still lives in Ponce. He said, grinning Miss Jenna's might faded to a faint tremor. He spent every summer there until he was 18. You think he didn't learn to speak the language of his own family? The room went silent. The clink of champagne glasses, the hum of laughter, even the soft jazz in the background seemed to vanish. Jenna's face strained of color, her perfectly made-up cheeks blanching as if someone had doused her in ice water. Leo's hand still resting on her waist, tightened involuntarily, his eyes narrowing at Mark like a cornered animal. Her friends, those hyenas who'd mocked and cheered for weeks, rose mid-sentence, their smirks curdling into expressions of pure terror. Mark leaned in, his voice dropping to a dangerous purr that carried across the hush. He understood every word at the party, every joke about him being an idiot, every detail you bragged about with Leo, every time you called him a synth, a fool, a plaything. He paused, glancing around at the group of them, his gaze cutting like a knife. He even understood when you told Leo he was bigger, though honestly Creed never cared about that. He cared about loving you, about building a life with you. Jenna's lips parted, but no sound came out. He stumbled backward, tripping over the hem of her gown, and Leo caught her, his face a mix of anger and panic. That's a lie, he snapped, but his voice shook. He never said anything, he never reacted. Oh, he reacted, Mark said, his grin cold. Just didn't react the way you wanted. You thought he was too stupid to catch on, too devoted to leave. You used his love like a shield, didn't you? Laughed at him while he ran to buy your morning after pill. Let him wait in the woods while you fucked his best friend. Listen to him scream when he fell off that cliff, and did nothing because you thought he'd never find out, because you thought he was yours to toy with. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The party guests, colleagues, distant relatives, mutual acquaintances were staring now, their eyes wide with shock. Whispers spread like wildfire, sharp and curious, as they pieced together the fragments of Mark's words. Jenna's mother, standing near the dessert table, paled and clutched her chest. Her father's jaw tightened, his gaze hardened as he looked at his daughter. Jenna finally found her voice high and cracked. No, that's not true. Creed would have told me he loved me. He said he loved me. He did love you, Mark said, his tone softening for a split second, before hardening again, until the day he fell off that embankment, until he lay there bleeding, his leg broken, listening to Yumi and with Leo over the phone, until he realized that the woman he planned to marry didn't care if he lived or died. That's when the love died. Jenna not before he pulled out his phone, tapped the screen and held it up. Video began to play. Grainy shot from a distance but unmistakable. It was the woods from that hiking trip. Jenna and Leo tangled on a blanket, her silk nightgown half unbuttoned, their laughter echoing. The sound of their voices was clear, even through the phone speaker. Jenna complaining about the scratchy grass, Leo mocking Creed for guarding them, both of them laughing at how clueless he was. Venus screamed a raw, animalistic sound and lunged for the phone. Mark stepped back easily, dodging her, and the video continued to play. The crowd watched in horrified fascination as the scene unfolded, until the camera panned to the edge of the embankment, where a figure, Creed, stumbled and fell. Scream that followed was blood-curdling, a sound that made several guests flinch, and then silence, except for Jenna and Leo's continued moans. In the background, the video ended. Mark lowered his phone, his eyes fixed on Jenna. He sent that to me yesterday, along with a lot of other things. Text messages you sent Leo, voice notes of your friends making fun of him, receipts from the pharmacy where he bought your Plan B, even the hospital bills from his broken leg. He nodded toward the door, where two men in suits had appeared, holding folders, and he sent copies to your employer, to Leo's boss, the rental company that owns the cabin you just snuck off to last month, because Creed doesn't believe in revenge. He believes in accountability. Leo lunged at Mark, his fists clenched, but one of the suited men stepped forward and grabbed him by the arm, holding him back. Let go of me, Leo shouted, struggling. This is none of your business, actually, the man said, his voice calm. It isn't, Mr. Hale. Creed has provided evidence of fraud. You'd used his credit card to pay for that cabin, to buy those toys you packed for the hiking trip, cover the cost of the Plan B. He's pressing charges. Jenna's knees gave out. She crumpled to the floor, sobbing as her friends scattered, some rushing to comfort her, others slipping out the back door, desperate to distance themselves from the disaster. Her mother ran over, dropping to her knees beside her. But Jenna pushed her away, screaming, it's your fault. You told me to marry him for his money. You said he'd never leave the room. Descended into chaos. Guests were arguing, taking photos, calling for rides home. Catter stood by, awkward and unsure. Leo was still yelling, struggling against the suited man's grip, and through it all Mark stood calm, sipping his champagne, watching the wreckage unfold. After a few minutes, he pulled out his own phone and sent a quick text. Then he turned to leave, pausing at the door to glance back at Jenna, who was now curled on the floor, her gown stained with tears and mascara. He's on a plane to Paris, Mark said, his voice loud enough for her to hear. He's not coming back, and honestly, I don't blame him. You never deserved him. With that, he walked out, closing the door behind him, and left Jenna to face the consequences of her choices. 2 weeks later, Creed was sitting at a cafe in Monteverde, sipping espresso and watching the sunset over the Paris skyline. His leg was still in a brace, but the pain had faded to a dull ache, nothing compared to the emptiness he felt. After Jenna's betrayal, he'd started his new job at the Paris office, and so far, it was everything he hoped for. Challenging, exciting, a fresh start. He'd heard bits and pieces from from Mark. Jenna had been fired from her job after the video went viral. Leo was facing charges for fraud and assault. He punched one of the suited men, and their friend group had fallen apart, each blaming the other for the disaster. Jenna had tried to call him a dozen times, left hundreds of texts and voicemails, apologies, please threats, but he blocked her number the day he left New York. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to think about her ever again. As he finished his coffee, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Mark. Her Jen is trying to sell the engagement ring. She needs the money to pay her legal fees. Karma's a bitch, huh? Creed smiled faintly and typed back good for her. I don't care. He put his phone away and stopped, wincing slightly as he adjusted his brace. He planned to walk down to the Seine, maybe stop for dinner at that little bistro he passed the other day. Life was quiet now, simpler. He missed Mark, missed his mom's cooking, but he didn't miss New York. He didn't miss the lies, the betrayal, the feeling of being a fool. As he walked, a woman brushed past him, tall with dark hair and a warm smile. She apologized in French, and he replied in kind, his accent still a little rusty but passable. She smiled again, lingering for a moment, and said, "You're American from New York originally." He said, "Just moved here." "Meet," she said, "I'm Lila. I work at the art gallery down the street." They talked for a few minutes about Paris, about adjusting to a new city, about the little things that made life feel worth living when they parted. She gave him her number and a promise to call. As he watched her walk away, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe it was too soon to think about love again. Maybe he'd never fully get over what Jenna did. For the first time in months, he didn't feel empty. He felt alive. 3 months later, Creed was at the Louvre, standing in front of the Mona Lisa when his phone rang. It was an unknown number from New York. He hesitated for a moment, then answered, curiosity getting the better of him. "Hello," a woman's voice, hoarse, desperate, filled his ear. "Reed, it's me, Jenna." He sighed. "What do you want, Jenna?"